Hi, I'm Shane Jones, making headlines tonight. Barbados hosting the latest talks between Venezuela's government and its opposition. The revitalization of Bridgetown a priority as Barbados seeks to capitalize on the city's potential. A multi-million-dollar maintenance project for the gas pipeline. And coming up in sports, Barbados finishes second at the CC Can Aquatic Championships.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
Leading the news at 7, Barbados will be facilitating high-level talks between the Venezuelan government and the opposition to resolve the country's political crisis this week. News of the talks started making the rounds in international media today and was confirmed by Prime Minister Mia Motley this afternoon. Lisa Lord was on tour with the Prime Minister and other officials regarding the National Botanical Gardens at Waterford earlier this afternoon, and she revealed the island's involvement. Lisa joins us live now. Good evening, Lisa. Bring us up to speed.
Good evening to you, Shane. And yes, Prime Minister Motley says that Barbados is indeed happy to be hosting the talks, which will be mediated by Norway. She says since January, Barbados, along with several other CARICOM states, made it clear there's always time for more dialogue. She also pointed out that it sends a clear signal of the confidence placed in Barbados by the international community.
I think Barbados has always had a reputation of a country whose foreign policy has been consistent, that we are friends of all, satellites of none, that we stay above the fray, and that we seek to bring about peace wherever we can. And this is a matter that requires the utmost patience, so it's not something that you should be asking me or anybody about on a daily basis. Let the people talk. And when you have deep divisions, it takes time. And I have every confidence in the government of Norway being able to do what CARICOM has wanted done from since January in our conversations together.
Well, as we mentioned at the top of the news, we caught up with the Prime Minister on a tour of the planned National Botanical Gardens, where she was looking at preparations for the hosting of the Soca Monarch at the end of this month. Now, she appeared happy with preparations, especially from a logistical perspective, but she took the conversation beyond that particular competition. She says they're looking at working with foreign governments for the creation of an international botanical garden as well on the opposite side, and this would be on the side of the highway down from the Norman roundabout. Now, their aim is to bring the world to Barbados.
And then you'll have all of this side is about Barbados and Barbadians trying to do. On the other side that we're taking, as I just explained, is where we will be inviting foreign governments and friends of Barbados to be able to take parts of it and to have representation of gardens that reflect their own country and their own culture. You immediately know a Japanese garden when you see it. You immediately know a Chinese garden when you see it. You understand? In Morocco, because they've been accustomed to water scarcity for over a millennia, they have a completely different approach to plants and gardening, etc. So in every instance, we're going to try and find representation so that we can bring the world to Barbados in these botanical gardens.
Well, Shane, you heard the Prime Minister mention Morocco there, and they have already reached out to that nation with an offer of them taking about 5 hectares. Now, as it relates to the actual use of the botanical gardens for the Soca Monarch competition, the Prime Minister says that while it is a temporary venue at the moment, they want the gardens, and this is the local side, of course, to be used for events in the future.
Ultimately, we hope to be able to build a permanent, because there's a most natural amphitheater further up. Okay, and once we do that, then we can have a permanent stage and other things that will allow people to be able to reduce the cost of productions, because if you have to come in and put in infrastructure all the time, it will always shoot up the cost of productions and reduce the viability of the event. This side should be able to be available to Barbadians who have children's parties, who want to have events, who want to have all kinds of things, but this is the space that the country does not now have.
Well, just some information in case you're wondering, Shane. The National Botanical Gardens is just over 250 acres, while the other side for the planned International Gardens is about 200 acres. Prime Minister Motley says it is a national project and not a government one. Shane?
Thank you so much, Lisa. Bridgetown is earmarked for some ambitious upgrades. It's all part of efforts to breathe new life into the nation's capital. Some of the plans were outlined on CBC TV8's The People's Business. Kishmar Sinjis reports.
From a redeveloped Pierhead and Robert Street, an Ariana experience, the proposals are numerous for Bridgetown. For realtor Sir Paul Altman, Bridgetown has to get moving. He says confidence is returning to Barbados and the capital presents many opportunities.
There are some areas already where some very defined studies have taken place. And I bring to mind areas such as, of course, the Pierhead is the first one. That's been around forever. Hopefully now it's happening. But you have Roebuck Street, you have the Marshall Hall area, which is the Hink Street area, where major studies have been done and they're ready to roll out. And then you have the area, of course, we did the area around the synagogue, that area there. But across from that, you have the library and you have the law courts.
Lighting, parking, security and Bridgetown's cleanliness are bugbears for businessman and former head of the Chamber of Commerce, Eddie Abed. He believes there needs to be incentives to invest in the city.
The reality is that Bridgetown, which was the hub of commerce historically, is no longer that. We do have the UNESCO World Heritage status, and we have not, I believe, done enough to cash in on it. And I can tell you through the BTMI, they have made significant number of plans that will start to work towards doing more and more with that. So we do have the opportunity to look at that. But my greater concern, Minister, is what do we do with the condition of the city?
Barbadians have been told that the redevelopment of Bridgetown is not just about getting people to shop there. Minister in the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Investment, Marsha Caddo, says plans are in the works to make it a smart city.
People will want to come to a city and be part of the experience if the life and the world that you create there is something that people want to be a part of. So I want us to try and expand our understanding of what we can do with Bridgetown. Yes, we have to upgrade the retail spaces and make them invest in them and make them more attractive to people. But we also have to create a Bridgetown that looks like Barbados and feels like Barbados.
Plans were also announced recently by the Prime Minister to transform the Treasury building into a mixed-use facility, and Barbadians will be afforded the opportunity to play a part in its redesign. Kishmar Senjis, CBC News.
Criminals targeted several Barbadian bank accounts over the weekend, making off with undisclosed sums of money. Lawmen are currently on the chase, investigating what is commonly referred to as skimming, which involves stealing from automatic teller machines or ATMs. CBC News understands that customers reported to several different commercial banks and to police that they discovered large sums of money went missing from their accounts over the weekend. Now, following the incidents, the Barbados Bankers Association issued a statement this evening. It says the association is aware of an issue involving the use of ATMs at several commercial banks. The TBBA adds that it will be making a further statement once police investigations have been completed. The association has further advised that anyone who suspects unauthorized use of their account should contact their commercial bank. The Barbados National Terminal Company Limited has embarked on a $6 million project aimed at addressing several deficiencies in its pipelines. This was announced by Minister of Energy and Water Resources, Wilfred Abrams. Now, during a media conference at the company's Ferry Valley headquarters this morning, Sharika Griffith reports.
Work on the BNTCL's pipelines is expected to begin on July 15th and to last for 45 days. It will target a number of Christchurch communities, including Charnox, Ferry Valley and Parish Land, as well as several areas along the mighty Griner Highway. Energy and Water Resources Minister Wilfred Abrams was quick to clarify that residents of surrounding areas need not worry.
We understand what is involved in this process. We understand the risks that are necessarily associated with this process. There are no existing issues with the pipeline, but maintenance is necessary. and we're doing what is necessary to ensure that Barbadians are as safe as possible.
Operations Supervisor Terrence Strawn says in the absence of a local legal framework, the BNTCL adheres to the highest international standards. In keeping with these standards, the company conducted an inline inspection of its pipelines within the first 10 to 15 years of operations. This was done at a cost of US $1.5 million.
14 anomalies were found, which do not indicate the presence of a leak, but pipeline metal losses of less than 50% and coating defects. So basically what was found was, this is the coating of the pipeline. What was found was defects of metal losses on the pipeline itself. Internally, they also had some metal losses as well. So to fully comply with these standards, BNTCL is now seeking to undertake this project at an additional cost of US $1.5 million to proactively conduct investigations to validate the results of the inspection, determine the root causes for these anomalies, and repair where necessary.
The contract for the project has been awarded to Trinidadian firm Weld Fab, which installed the pipelines back in 2005. They have partnered with local engineering company Infra Limited in an effort to sensitize residents who may be affected. 3 town hall meetings are scheduled in the coming weeks. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
Intermittent showers could not stop the vibes at this year's Yellow International Bashment Soca Monarch Finals. Our Rianne Phillips tells us more.
Even before the official announcement was made, his name was on the lips of those in the crowd. Then came the confirmation. Although SK tied for first place with King Bubba, he dethroned last year's Bashment King Lil Rick, who came second, and Underdog, who finished third.
I feel great with the performance, put down. The management feel great, the sponsors feel great. I believe in it. I believe in the performance.
Despite some challenges on and off stage, regional artists Sita from St. Vincent and Blaze Antonio from Guyana were still happy for the opportunity to participate in the contest.
I think that Barbados is really onto something. Bashment Soca is Barbadian, and the fact that it's now international creates avenues via which artists outside of Barbados can express themselves.
I've never been in a competition before. I've never worked with a band before. I've never worked with dancers before. I'm pretty young and I'm coming into business, and it was an amazing experience. I love the ambience, I love the fans, I love the Bajan people.
And the Culture Minister John King is pleased with the progress of Bashment Soca, but believes there is more room for growth.
What is needed now is the creation of a lifestyle that goes along with the music. If you look at, let's say, hip-hop, if you look at rock, you look at any of the other music forms, you can see a particular style in terms of fashion, and there's a lifestyle. Remember, in the early days of reggae, you had Rastafari that went along with it, vegetarianism, all these different things, colors. So we've got to do the same thing for this music.
Officials estimate well over 2,000 people attended this year's competition. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
Checking in with our regional neighbors now. Caribbean governments have been slammed for the high cost of air travel. Director of Economics at the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Justin Ram, called on states to slash the taxes and rake in more value added and income taxes. He also stressed the need for harmonization of regulations at regional airports.
I think specifically seek to lower the taxes and the charges that they apply on airfares. That might lead in the very short term to a reduction in revenues, but over the long term, our analysis has shown that if you give the aviation sector a boost, you will see significant gains in GDP as well as significant gains in employment. And when those things happen, the government will also see significant gains in their revenues as well.
In Jamaica, a state of emergency has been declared for the St. Andrews South Police Division. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says government has as its first responsibility the preservation of life as violence is at epidemic proportions. CVM TV reports.
Duns, gangs and guns, according to Prime Minister Andrew Holness, are the main reasons for unacceptable levels of violent crime in South St. Andrew. The division has historically been one of the most violent in the country, with over 25 gangs currently engaged in deadly inter- and intra-gang conflicts. Murders have increased by 19% while shooting incidents by 40% over 2018. Prime Minister Holness says his government is building consensus on the plan to reduce crime.
Presently, where we are is the same place we were last year this time. Two things can happen. It is either the graph goes up or the graph goes down.
Trinidad and Tobago's Minister of Trade says they have been doing quite well on the export front, with tens of millions of dollars in exports to Latin American countries in 2018 alone. But she notes there are still some key markets that TNT is yet to fully penetrate. She's now urging manufacturers to get more innovative. TV6 reports.
Trade Minister Paula Gopiskun says, as well as TNT is doing with respect to trade, there is great potential for expansion. But she says what is needed is more innovation and less duplication.
That's the kind of studies that we've done with ECLAC, looking at the particular markets, what we've missed in what product. So we're looking very closely to find the product and the market.
She says CARICOM as a whole needs to challenge themselves to meet their own needs.
If CARICOM is importing substantially, it means that we've not looked closely enough to what we could provide and we could produce.